All right, ladies and gentlemen. So what we are going to do today is you are going to be doing some brainstorming for the gestures and your messages. So your sculpture is going to have a positive message that goes with your gesture. So I want you to not just do a pose because it's interesting and dynamic. I also want you to think about maybe a positive message that goes with it. Move this out of the way so it focuses on my paper. All right, so first thing you are going to do, sorry about that, guys. I don't know why it won't focus, is that you are going to divide your page. Oops, hold on. I did that wrong. Divide your page in half, hot dog wise, and then in thirds, hamburger wise, so that you have 6 boxes. There we go. So you have 6 boxes on your page that you can do your messages in. Now, if you want to come up with the poses first and then come up with a message that goes with it, you can do that. I kind of like coming up with the message first, so I kind of have an idea. So I was thinking maybe dive into something new, make time to dance. So I'm kind of picking some messages that have very dynamic words in them, or words that tell me about movement. So dancing, diving, jump into new experiences, reach for the stars. All right, so I got 4 to start with. Maybe I'll come back and do the other 2 later. Now, you are either going to get someone to pose for you, or you're going to use one of the mannequins. I do not have enough mannequins for everyone in the class to have one, so realize using these mannequins is sometimes harder than getting a person to pose for you. Because these mannequins can do things that humans can't do. So, like, the mannequin can bend like this. The mannequin can twist around and bend like this. A human being cannot. So you need to make sure that you're picking a pose that is both physically possible for a human. Otherwise, your sculpture will just look weird. You also want to make sure it's dynamic. So you want to think about bending the arms and bending the legs. So if I'm doing dive into something new, I've got this figure kind of diving. Now realize for this view, I could do a front view or I could do a side view. For this particular one, to get the idea of the pose, it's easier to be a side view. And it doesn't matter because the next step when we're moving on, you're going to have to do both. So I would say at this point, do whichever one's easier now. So if I get this thing, I need to use both hands for a second. And I'm kind of jumping and diving. So if I'm jumping and diving, I want to bend my knees a little bit so it gets that motion of moving. There we go. So there is my side view. So now what I'm going to do is using the proper gesture drawing. Now at this point, proportion does not matter. So I just want to get the body on there with the arms in the right spot and the hands right there. And then this leg is kind of bent a little bit and the leg's there and this leg's bent a little bit more. And it goes back. And there's my diver. Now, then I can come up and reach. If I do reach for the stars, maybe I straighten the body a little bit more. I have one arm reaching up, and I have one arm, or maybe I'm reaching with both arms, kind of like that. I've got this arm crossing the body. That makes something more dynamic. If I'm just putting both arms straight up, that's not really a dynamic pose. This is a much more interesting pose. And then maybe I'm stepping on something with this leg, so it's up a little bit more, and this leg's kind of on its tiptoes. So then I'm reaching for the stars. Now the other thing you can do is I made this box kind of the wrong size, so I can turn my paper so it works better. Now these shouldn't take you too long. And this is coming here. These shouldn't take you too long because these are just brainstorms. You don't even know if you're going to use any of these, or you're only going to move on with one of these. So you just want to have those kind of messages. If you're having trouble coming up with new messages, you can always do 2 different poses for the same message. So I could say make this one reach for the stars too. But instead of that pose, maybe I'm climbing a ladder. So his arms are on different rungs and his legs are on different rungs, and I twist maybe to make it a little bit more different than the other pose. See how I keep taking my own arm and posing it in that position, which I know you can't see, to make sure that what I'm doing is physically possible, because if I start bending it like that, that's not possible. And then this one's on one rung and this one's on another rung, and I might need to hold this one because it won't bend enough, because that's the other problem with these mannequins, is sometimes they don't bend enough to get to a pose that a human could do a little bit more easily. So this leg's coming up and down, this one's coming down and over, this one's going up, I've got that arm up, and then this one's a little lower and up. Okay, so you need to come up with 6 of these and get Miss Chesser to sign off on your learning guide in order to move on to your final draft.